crickets. We're going to name this one because we can't find them, but every time I do a Zoom meeting with clients, you can hear them loud and clear.
So, sir, it is 9:30. I did just send a quick reminder to the engineer. If you would, we can get started on the other stuff and start with Christine if you want to.
Why not? We got things to do today. Okay, good morning, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order at
9:31 a.m.
9:31. First order of business is the adoption of the agenda, and I have a recommendation that West Elgin Council hereby adopts the agenda as presented. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? That should be Cameron and Leatham. All in favor? Okay. All right, do we need to show of hands is good?
Yep.
Okay, that's carried. Certainly a reminder to disclose any pecuniary interest. We have a meeting now to consider the engineer's report for the Mackenzie drain. Recommendation that council proceed into a meeting to consider the engineer's report to the Mackenzie drain South Branch and the St. Thomas Moore branch under section 42 of the Drainage Act. Mover and seconder, please. Tellier and Cameron, all in favor? And that is carried.
So Mr.
Okay.
Mr. Widener. Mr. Widener, Brandon Widener.
Brandon Wagner. No, he's our engineer.
Yes.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Wagner. Everything is good at Spreets this morning?
Well, everything's always good at Spreets.
That's what. All right, well, turn the report over to you.
So today, this is the drain that John completed. I was involved a little bit with it, but it's a Mackenzie drain. It's 2 branches. It's mainly for some severances along Furnival Road. There is 2 portions of this project, and you're seeing multiple work here. There is 4 lots proposed on the north end, and there is potential for future lots on the other end. So the developer is paying all the costs on this project. It's basically lot drainage. That's a requirement of severance. But you have a small project here. It's 122,000. It's all assessed to the one owner. It's divided out for the future maintenance schedules for the new lots. Included are the possible future lots. So that work is being done, you know, ahead. So it's there for when he decides to move forward. The drain itself, the South Branch, consists of some 10-inch plastic pipe. The rest of it is 8-inch plastic pipe. There's a number of catch basins being installed. Then you'll see Branch C again is 166 meters of 8-inch tile. So you have the map up in front of you. There's no other cost to upstream people. It's all being paid by the Ontario Lane Company. Also included is if there's a new maintenance schedule by South Branch, Branch C, the St. Thomas More branch, and Branch D. But I haven't heard any complaints or anything from the owner. I know Mr. Mohan has talked to them many times about this, and I think they are anxious to proceed.
Okay, I have one question, I guess, for Tom. Any potential development on the east side of Furnival, will that impact this drain, or will it be a separate plan for any development that may or may not happen on that side of the road?
This won't pertain to anything on the east side, no.
Do you foresee any need at some point in time for drainage on that side? And
I think on the east side, potentially they can hook into the new drain when Rodney was reconstructed. I believe there's even a stub into the one property. Okay, that's what I was wondering, because it would be sad to have to go back and find out that this wasn't done in looking down the road at future development that may or may not be taking place out on that end of the village. Yeah, basically east of Furnival is kind of its own watershed. It's not really affected by the Mackenzie drain.
Okay, good to know. Council have any other questions regarding this report? Pretty straightforward report, one landowner and oh, okay. From the public now? Please, just please state your name for the record.
Sean Newman.
Okay.
I live on the east side of Furnival Road across from, I guess it's lot 4 for Severns. In the middle.
Please come up to the table.
To the chair, I can't hear Mr. There he is.
Yeah. We're not used to having guests.
Good morning. My name is Sean Newman. I live across on the east side from, I think it's lot 4 of Severns. I'm kind of in the middle. I don't know if you have the map there you could bring up. So I'm on the J.K. Ginzel lot. That's our property. So I would like to, I see that all the costs are being paid out by the landowner for the Severns. However, there's maintenance costs and future costs that are going to be distributed amongst the residents that are there per the report. So if there's no effect to the east side, why is there cost attributed to those residents? My question.
Okay, I guess we'll have the engineer comment on that.
So the South Branch essentially always existed, and you always had cost assessed to it. So you've actually, with this new work, your portion of the cost goes down. So that property, for instance, pays 0.3% of the future maintenance costs. So if there was $1,000 of work done, you would pay $3. That's went down from what it would have been on the old maintenance schedule for the South Branch.
So what's the delta? So what's the difference, I guess? What was it before then?
That question, I can't answer that quickly. I'd have to do a little bit of research on that.
Okay. So you said it's lower, but there's nothing, you don't have anything to back that up, basically.
I'll get back to you on that one. It just takes me a couple minutes to find your property on the old report.
Right.
Okay. I know it's difficult to multitask here. Maybe we can have. Are you comfortable answering any easy questions, Tom? And if there's a difficult one, we can ask the engineer. And while he can maybe.
Yeah.
I guess that was my only question. My only question is like, what is the benefit to the east side? Right? There's nothing. We don't have any issues with drainage, water, anything of that nature. So I just don't understand.
But I think that you do have water going across in another branch of the same drain.
We have a drain on our property.
Right. But there's
currently.
There's still the, which branch is it that's existing?
The South Branch.
The South Branch
is existing. The South Branch is in the existing branch, and under the report that those properties were always assessed into the South Branch. So had we had to do maintenance on that South Branch, those properties would have been assessed. So obviously they still are assessed, but now with the costs being shared amongst more properties, your assessment for maintenance will actually be lower than it used to.
Okay, so can we show in the report the difference? Like that would help, right?
Public
understand. Right, we don't see these reports all the time, right? So it's hard to understand what exactly is going on. So you see reports saying that there's going to be additional costs. Well, you have nothing to compare it to, right?
We can provide that to you. So I'm just going through some of the history here. This report for the downstream drain was done in 2009. And I'm just trying to look for the existing South Branch. But I'll be honest, Tom can get back to you directly if that number. We'll provide that to him and show you the difference.
Okay. I think that if if you were to leave your information with Jen, our clerk.
Sure.
Tom Mohan, our drainage superintendent, will get that information that you need.
Okay.
And maybe you might have some other questions when.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions from the public or from council regarding the engineer's report? I'm seeing none. Oh, by the way, thank you for coming to our council meeting.
So if anyone in of the attendees wishes to ask a question or anything, please use the raise your hand function and I'll allow you to speak.
Okay, the clerk is seeing none. Okay, Tom. Go ahead, Tom.
If the resident, excuse me, if the resident can provide his information, it won't be till next week when I look that up. But I'll be more than happy to show him from the old report and from the new report and explain to him exactly how it works.
Okay, that'd be great, Tom. So as we have no additional public comments regarding this matter, and I don't see any comments coming from council, please read the recommendation, Madam Clerk.
That West Elgin Council receives the engineer's report on the Mackenzie Drain South Branch and St. Thomas More Branch Municipal Drain as prepared by Mr. J.M. Spreet and P.Eng. And that West Elgin Council authorizes staff to initiate the tender process, if required, for the reconstruction of the Mackenzie Drain South Branch and St. Thomas More Branch Municipal Drain to be considered by council following the Court of Revision, and that West Elgin Council consider the provisional bylaw as presented in the bylaw portion of the agenda for a first and second reading.
Do we have a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Moved by Leatham, seconded by Tellier. All in favor? And that is carried.
So now we're at West Elgin Council hereby closes the meeting to consider the engineer's report held pursuant to section 42 of the Drainage Act at 9:43 a.m. in order to reconvene in the regular meeting of council.
Mover and seconder for that. Oh, you have a question, Mr. Walker?
Widener.
No, I can answer that gentleman's question. So he was previously assessed 1.5%. And that was under a report done in 2009 done by John Spreet. So he's dropped to 0.3 from 1.5. So he's about a fifth of what he was.
You're one of the few people that's going in the right direction in this world. Yeah, you're going in the right direction. You're going down.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I need a mover and seconder.
Mover and seconder for the closing the meeting. Moved by Cameron, seconded by Leatham. All in favor, and that is carried. All right, we're all done with that. Next item up is Christine, and I'm not even going to call you our favorite bean counter, but
really, I'm so hurt and appalled.
Good morning, Christine.
Good morning, everyone. I sent out the draft financial statements, which are in your package, so I will go through them. I'm going to go through the consolidated financial statement first, which is for the year ended December 31st, 2021. When it says consolidated, I'll mention a couple of things. One is that we consolidate in the Port Glasgow Yacht Club. They provide us with their documents, and we incorporate those in to your financial statements, even though they're not part of your annual budget or your GL itself. And that is because the municipality owns the land on which it operates. That's the first thing. The second thing is Tri-County is consolidated in these financial statements. As council is aware, there was an agreement signed subsequent to year end in January 2022 that all the participating municipalities, we finally came to an agreement and it was signed. And so going forward, we will eliminate the minority users of the systems assets and liabilities basically out of your financial statements. The net is zero on your particular surplus because as you know, everything with Tri-County is transferred over to their reserve. And so there is no surplus within that system. Any surplus is transferred to their reserve. So just had those comments. It is a clean auditor's opinion. So I'm moving forward to my independent auditor's report. When I say clean, I mean that we as municipal auditors set materiality, which for this year was $160,000 based on your annual revenues. However, that doesn't mean we only look at transactions over $160,000. As your staff will attest to, we go through what we call statistical sampling of all transactions in the revenue cycles and the purchase cycles and the payroll cycles and select transactions. So every transaction that flows through the municipality is eligible for that sampling. Obviously, not every transaction is over 160,000. So we do look at significantly other transactions as well as reducing that materiality when we look at subsequent events to make sure that everything for 2021 was recorded in 2021. So having said all that, the report right now is draft and is dated as of today's date, which is hopefully the date that council approves these statements, which under the Canadian auditing standards is required by council. That's my blurb on my audit. So now we'll move into the actual numbers. So if you want to turn to my page 3, the consolidated statement of financial position, this is more, you may know it better as a balance sheet, and I'll just highlight a couple items on it. About 3/4 of the way down the page is something called net financial assets. And so that's the amount of money that the municipality would have in the bank if everybody paid what they owed you and you paid off everything you owed. And you can see that so I always look at this as an indicator as how you're doing financially. You'll see that we have increased that number by approximately just under $450,000, which is obviously going in the right direction. Everything below that line are assets that you need to have in place in order to provide the services you do, being water, wastewater, and public works, as well as the buildings and arenas additionally to that. And so when I look at that net financial assets, I'm looking at the numbers between 2021 and 20. And really, I just have a couple comments to make here. You will see that we have more cash in the bank, obviously on that first line. But if you go down under liabilities and look at deferred revenue, so those are revenues that we have in our bank account that have not yet been spent on the capital projects that they need to be spent on. So those capital projects are stipulated by the amount or by the organization or by the entity giving you that money. So the majority of that money is both OCIF funds and the federal gas tax. Because we were not able to complete a couple of different projects in 2021, namely the Rodney Sewage Project and the Furnival Road Project, we kept that money in our bank account, will be spent in 2022 when those projects are completed. So that's the main difference on your balance sheet. And then I will comment on one other item, the net long-term liabilities. I know council is always concerned about debt. All of your debt at the current time is paid by ratepayers, meaning that either those on water systems, those on wastewater systems, or those on municipal drain that have municipal drain debt pay that. So we get the money in from the ratepayers and we pay off that debt. So there is nothing that hits at this current time your general ratepayer. Any questions on the balance sheet at all? You'll notice the accumulated surplus, which is that number at the bottom of the statements, has stayed relatively consistent with last year. And we'll get into a breakdown of that, but I just wanted to comment that as you can see, the majority of that is in your tangible capital assets investment. The remainder is in reserves. All right, moving forward to the consolidated statement of operation accumulated surplus. So this is your income statement, budget 2021, which is approved by council, your actual 2021, and then 2020 comparatives. And I'll just make a couple comments on these. I'll remind council that in the budget, so under revenues and expenditures, as I mentioned, that Port Glasgow Yacht Club is not budgeted. So their revenues, which really show up in user charges, are there in the actuals, not in there in the budget. And then also under expenditures, so in the budgeted column is the actual cost of what capital assets we're going to purchase in the year. And those two big ones that I just mentioned, being the Furnival Road and the Rodney Sewage, are in that budget. We back those out to put them on the balance sheet under PSAB, which is your capital assets. And instead what shows in your actual is your amortization of those assets. So there will be a significant difference in some years where you've budgeted significant capital, which you had done in 2021. So let's just go down through the lines and I'll just comment on a couple of things. Under revenue, so as I mentioned, the user charges, that difference between actual and budget is the Port Glasgow Yacht Club fees. And then we had a significant increase in building permits as well. And then under government grants, the difference between that, safe restart monies that continued to come in 2021, as well as we got some COVID or some accessibility grant for the new building at the in Rodney. So that's the difference in the revenues. Under expenditures, I just really have a couple comments there. If you look at so really if you look at actual 2020 to actual 2021, you'll find that amortization is in both of those numbers and capital isn't. And you'll see that we've spent a bit less in 2021 than 2020, about $300,000, but on a budget of 14 million, that's not a significant difference. The main areas where you look at budget to actual is in the transportation and environmental services. Budgets are much higher than what we spent, and that is because of those two capital projects that I keep coming back to. So then if we go to the excess of revenue over expenditures line, again, about 3/4 of the way down the page, that's really the surplus you have on operations. So that last year was 230,000, this year it's 730, so an increase of 500,000. So obviously going in the right direction again there. That then gets put over, any excess gets put over to reserves. I'll comment on that. Everything below that line are items that relate to capital and are not part of operations, and therefore we break them out so they don't skew year to year. I'll mention a couple things here. Government transfers related to capital. It looks like we didn't get anything in, and that's because we didn't get those projects done, therefore didn't qualify for those grants. Gain loss on disposal of tangible capital assets, that's just the disposal of the assets. And obviously for things like roads and things like that, you don't get any money back. So we write them off once they've been replaced. Obligatory and other revenue related to capital, just a small amount there because we did, as I said, not spend the federal gas tax as we had anticipated. That transfer to obligatory reserve fund, that's the OCIF money. In the past, we showed it as part of our reserves. And in fact, it's really an obligatory reserve fund. So we've just moved it over to the balance sheet. That's not anything that we had to pay back or anything like that. It's just gone into our bank account. It was in our bank account all along. We've just moved it over to the obligatory reserve fund. Coming down to that accumulated surplus at the end of the year that I mentioned. Any questions on that at all? Okay.
I do have a little bit of a question back to the taxes and penalties line. That one is of interest to me as we're up.
So it was budgeted 69 and it's 99. So we basically budgeted based on, we weren't sure if we were going to give COVID relief or not. And so we always budget low on that because the assumption is that people will pay their taxes because they're at 15% a year interest rate. And clearly it's very close to the prior year. So it's just our budget, it was probably a little low.
But my bigger question than that, I guess, is that line always interests me in the fact that is that a good indicator of our overall economy within our municipality and people's ability to pay their taxes on time And if we're having larger than normal tax arrears owing, is that an indicator that we can kind of come to the conclusion that people are having some issues within the municipality, or are we, and I quite often look at a lot of people use this as the bank of last resort.
Yeah, and that very well could be. I can't honestly comment on that without knowing specific who's not paid and what their significant or their specific situation is. I will comment on the fact that on the balance sheet, our taxes receivable went from just over $1 million down to $850. So we are collecting. So
we are, yes.
Yes.
We've taken a new approach towards that. But it would interest me, and I don't know if it's possible to see how that has trended over not just 2020, 2019, but over a number of years, just to see what that percentage of unpaid taxes is going forward as taxes increase, as a lot of things change in the world, and my own knowledge to know just exactly what's happening out in the
yeah. Okay, I think that's something you could probably
provide. I think Magda can probably get that information from me. Okay, that's the only question I had. Everybody else is good. You can see everybody. All right.
All right, I'll just continue through. So we have this consolidated statement of cash flows, which are the increases and decreases of the non-cash items on the balance sheet. I've pretty much highlighted the large dollar ones there. And as I mentioned, the debt is going in there. We're paying off debt. No new debt was issued in 2021. The next statement is one that I think council should be aware of. This is where we show amortization of the capital assets. So that's the using up of assets. Over the last couple of years, we've done some significant work, both water, wastewater, and that's why the increase in the amortization. However, when you look at the change in the capital assets, so I'm adding the acquisition line plus the increase in capital work in progress, about 1.7 million there, and then compared to the 2 million of amortization. So I just will comment on that. So what we like to see is that we replace assets at least equal to what the amortization amount is. Now you can see in 2020, we had significant new asset additions. We had budgeted to have significant new asset additions again in 2021, but because the fact that Furnival Road and the sewage did not get done, that's why it's not as high as I would like to see, but there's actual reasons. Supply chain obviously has been a huge impact on capital projects. So I don't expect to see that continue. I think this was an anomaly year.
Angela, you have a question for Christine?
Christine, I know when we first got on council, you were a little kind of on us about this section. I know in the coming year of council in 2023, these projects hopefully will go forward. Do you then go back and accrue for this? And this will sort itself out?
So it will be shown in it will by the end of 2023, because the municipal building is now done. That project was also in progress at the end of the year at Furnival Road. Hopefully we'll be done or close to it. Yes, I'm looking at Lee. And the sewage projects are going forward. It will have corrected itself by the end of 2022.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions for Christine while we're stopped right at this point? Seeing none.
All right. We'll move on to the notes to the financial statements. Most of these notes are standard notes that show up in municipal financial statements in general. So I'm going to just highlight a couple of them as we go through these. The first few are just on your accounting policies. These are accounting policies that are prescribed by PSAB, which is the Canadian Public Standards for municipalities. I will comment on note number 4. So this is monies that so in your financial statements, we don't show the amounts you raise for county and school boards because we raise them and then send them over to those entities. However, I will comment that in addition to the revenues that you're seeing on those financial statements of over $11 million, we also have over almost $5 million in revenue that passes through these doors that are responsibility of your staff to collect and to move over to those boards. So just want to comment on that. Note number 6 breaks down those deferred obligatory reserve funds, and you can see there what I mentioned about the OCIF monies and the federal gas tax are the majority of those, and they will be spent as those projects go forward. Note number 7 is on your long-term debt, and I will just make comment that in note B, it shows that all of those monies are recoverable from ratepayers, meaning nothing flows through the general taxes. Note number 8 is probably the note that council is most concerned or interested in. So there's an operating surplus, and that is the Port Glasgow Yacht Club's surplus of the 305,804 is that. And then we have what's invested in tangible capital assets, gone down a little bit, as I mentioned, and that's that difference between amortization and the new capital. And then we have reserves and reserve funds. And you can see if you add those two together, we're pretty consistent with last year at just $12 million. So we will see those go down as well, I'm assuming, when those projects all get done, but clearly a healthy looking surplus at this point. And then at the back of your statement, the rest of the notes, I don't have anything significant to say on those. The back of the statement says 2 schedules. One is the breakdown of your tangible capital assets by component. And as you would imagine, the roads and bridges and the water wastewater are the largest components of those. And then the last schedule that's on those financial statements is the breakdown of the revenues and expenditures by function. So the FIR that we file on your behalf has to be by function. So this kind of takes a segue between your audited financial statements and the one that we submit to the province for the FIR, and it breaks it down by these functions, which are the functions within the FIR. You also have a statement for the Schleihoff, am I saying that right? Trust fund that's been around. Those of you who have been around for a while, it's been around since before my time. It's $1,000 that was left to the municipality to be spent on specific items, and that $1,000 is still there, plus the accrued interest on that. That is my report, unless anyone has any questions.
Questions from anyone?
I'd also like to just take this time to thank your CAO treasurer and her staff. As you can imagine, not only did we have COVID to work through and just auditing in general, but we also had a move in there too. So it was a little dicey for a while, but we're done and we got it done, and we'll get the FIR filed by the September 30th deadline. So
thank you very much, Christine, and your staff for providing an excellent, I think, overview of the municipality's financial concerns. I asked this to Raven and Company at the county. From an auditor's perspective, going through all our financials, is there anything in there you see that we could do better?
No, we've talked as we go through, like, so as I said, we statistically sample into purchases, payroll, all those things. So as we find things that we think, you know, you can do better just from a documentation standpoint more than anything, we let your staff know. If there was anything major, I would have a management letter. There wasn't anything major this year, so that's why there's no management letter.
Well, I think that's a result of our excellent staff that we have with the municipality.
Absolutely.
Everything is as it should be and where it should be, and so it must be comforting for you as auditors to come in knowing that there's nothing under the table or nothing.
No, and your treasurer certainly takes great pride in making sure internal controls are in place. So
trying to get money out of her. Just about impossible.
Okay, Duncan, do you want me to
go ahead and read it?
That West Elgin Council hereby approves the 2021 audited financial statements as presented by Christine Scrimgeour, the auditor.
Mover and seconder, please. Latham and Cameron, all in favor? That is carried.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to see everyone. Be well.
So we're at the adoption of, we're on a time schedule today.
We're on a time schedule. We're always on a time schedule with you. Okay, we will continue on with adoption of the minutes.
That the minutes of the council meeting on August 11th, 2022 be adopted as circulated and printed.
Mover and seconder. Cameron and Taillé, all in favor? And that is carried.
Any business arising?
Yes, any business arising for those minutes? Seeing none.
So we're at the consent agenda. Does anyone need anything pulled from the consent agenda? Seeing none. Okay, West Elgin Council hereby receives and files the consent agenda as presented.
Mover and seconder, please. Latham and Taillé, all in favor? That is carried.
So we're at Aqua. If you guys want to just come join us over here.
Good morning, Sam. Good morning, everybody. Switch gears here.
In here. Okay, West Elgin distribution. Okay, so the second quarter report, we had no non-compliances in the second quarter, no inspections or MOL inspections or anything like that. As you can see, the performance as well, no issues with chlorine, no back T issues, no sampling issues. For maintenance, just our general sampling, general maintenance is scheduled by our work management system. We completed spring flushing in between April 4th and April 15th. Out of that flushing, we found a few hydrants that needed to be repaired, and those have since been repaired. I can't comment. We did forget about one at Marsh and Furnival, but it's been since repaired. And then we had a service line leak on Monroe Street here in town, just down the road from me, actually, where we had to replace about 1.5 feet of old copper service. So that was completed with no issues. And then the only alarm we had was a power or a communication failure, which it turned out to be a power outage at the tower. Once we contacted Hydro One, we waited until it was restored and no issues arose from that. That is everything for distribution.
Any questions for Sam on distribution? Seeing none, resolution please.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the second quarter operations report for the West Elgin drinking water distribution system from Sam Smith of Aqua.
Mover and seconder, please. Taillé. Cameron, all in favor? That is carried. Wastewater.
Alrighty, West Lauren wastewater plants. We've had no compliance issues, no inspections. You can see the average flow is down slightly, 5.8%, which isn't much when you consider there's only 538 cubes coming through a day. Like I said, all our lab results have been good. Samples have been good, all within compliance. As far as maintenance goes, we had Gerber Electric and TNT Power out on site one day to investigate some PLC issues at the main pump station. That was quickly fixed. So no issues there. We had a sewer backup in West Lauren, but we were able to quickly, it wasn't majorly backed up. We were able to get hurricane hydrovac into flush from manhole to manhole, and after that everything was okay. We did get an alum delivery, and I will speak to alum chemicals generally once I've completed my reports, but nothing major as far as maintenance goes. As far as second quarter alarms, we did receive a high pump station. Be when we typically get those when we get like major rains, like an inch or two within an hour or so. So that's very typical for any district sewage system. There's no concerns there.
Questions for Sam on wastewater, West Lauren? Seeing none, resolution please.
West Elgin Council hereby receives the second quarter operations report for the West Lauren wastewater treatment plant from Sam Smith of Aqua.
Mover and seconder, please. Aletham. And Cameron, all in favor? Carried. Rodney treatment plant.
Okay, so no compliance issues at Rodney, no inspections. Flow is down 22% when compared to 2021. Not a great explanation for that. Perhaps the replacement of the storm system down Furnival would be probably a good explanation, which isn't a bad thing to lower flows. All our lab results have been good. Everything is fine compliance wise. As far as general maintenance goes, we check our 3rd Street and Stinson Street weekly. We had TNT and Gerber on the same day they were in West Lauren come to troubleshoot some issues at the pump station there that we were able to get working just fine. Didn't make second quarter as it happened in third quarter, but the alum tank has a leak. The alum storage tank has a leak on the very bottom. Not something that we're going to be able to fix. So for the time being, until construction starts and we get the new alum tank, we are taking alum orders in tote form, which is a bit more money. It's a bit of a pain in the butt. It needs to be stored in warm temperatures. So we've spoke with municipal staff. Come winter time, we have different storage options at the sewage plant. We'll just need help from the municipality to move the totes from maybe one building to another. So we're fine in that sense. Operationally, we're fine. It is just going to be alum totes are when you buy them in tote form, it is a bit more money per ton. On the chemical conversation side of things, just like everything in the world, chemicals are going up, and chemicals are going up astronomically. We do have a clause in the contract that states if we are over 10% spent on alum, then it's reconciled at the end of the year. That's based off of baseline budget that was baseline in 2021. West Lauren most likely will be fine this year. Rodney may be a little bit over because of these totes. We're anticipating like a 50% increase in alum costs, in alum pricing in 2023. So just, I guess, forewarning that at the end of 2023, there most likely will be a need to reconcile that alum budget. We continue to do our best to optimize chemical usage. We do the best we can. Aqua procurement is working diligently on all chemicals, on procuring the best price. But they have gone from like 2 to 3 year contracts pricing to almost weekly, it seems, where they will only secure the price for like a month. So it's a battle everywhere. But I just wanted to put that out there now that at the end of this year, there may be a little bit need to be reconciled for Rodney because of the tote issue. And we did lose like, luckily it wasn't full, but we did lose approximately half of what was currently stored there with the leak. And then the totes are a bit more. So just wanted to point that out. Other than that, that is it for Rodney.
Richard.
With the water flows being down fairly low this year, did you have a chance to do anything to the lagoons?
We haven't. The lagoons have been naturally evaporating. Luckily, they're up and down, but there's no overflow or anything like that. But we're just waiting on the engineering firm the municipality hired to start that work. So Aqua, no, we didn't do anything to the lagoons this year.
Okay, thanks.
So with the alum and the chemicals and the other things that are out there, and I think we're all aware of that. The bottom line is the rates are going to go up.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's something that, you know, the alum budget, and let's say for Rodney, for instance, is $7,000 a year. So 50% of that is $3,500, right? So you spread that over the users of Rodney. You're not talking a lot, but it needs to be, you know, that money will have to be found somewhere.
But I think in general, water and sewage rates are going to go up.
Yes, I would surmise that.
Yeah.
Being involved in Tri-County, I know what's going on there intimately, so I would think so, yes.
Any other questions for Sam? Yes.
Through the chair, my question was already answered about the amount that's going to go up, your estimated amount, but I'm looking to see when was the leak discovered? And thank you for taking action on that and making a plan already and bringing it to us.
I believe it was July that it was discovered. It's something that we check daily, so it wasn't, and it's in a containment. It's a contained leak, so we shouldn't call it a leak. The tank is leaking. The alum did not leak or spill, we'll call it. So it is contained, but it was fouled, essentially not usable, unfortunately. So yeah, we were able to take quick action because of the state that the tank was in. Previously, we were never drawing from the tank to dose. It was that we would transfer from the tank to a day tank, essentially. So luckily that day tank was full, and yeah, operations in the process was never you know, never sacrificed. There was no issues. We were able to quickly order the alum totes and use our supply in our day tank, which is about a week and a half to get us through until those totes arrive. So.
Okay, any more questions for them? Angela.
Good morning, Sam. So being as you know, you're familiar with Tri-County and you've sat through those meetings, and knowing that we are trying to set away reserve funds for repairs, and that the 2023 rates have already been set, and there's a future rate study that has already been done with the projected future rate increases, and now we have this little hiccup coming down the road. Should you be sitting down with staff now, and I know you may not know exact numbers, trying to increase those projected rate increases so that the information can get out sooner than later to the public about what is coming for the rate increases? Because, you know, you're a community member, you're very familiar with when rate increases go out, how agitated everybody gets, so that we can make this as public process as possible on what's going on with this, rather than, you know, because we've already put it out and the rate study's out there and people are looking at that, and obviously this is totally going to have to be revamped.
Mm-hmm. It's a very good question. I think on the wastewater side of things specifically, it's not going to be something that won't be managed, at least for, let's say, for a year or two. And then who knows what happens. It's very hard to predict right now what's going to happen with anything, you know, the way, was it going to slow down? Is it going to keep going as fast as it is on the water side of things? It's definitely a conversation internally at Aqua and with the board, with Magda. We're trying to figure out how to pay for everything, how to increase the reserves, things like that. So the conversations are starting to happen. It's just very hard to predict how things are going to work out. But yeah, the conversations are happening, and how that gets relayed to the public, well, I'm not sure how that'll go. We just have to decide the direction we're going in and what.
I understand that, and I'm familiar, costs are constantly changing. I just I thought I'd put it out there so that if a public process or whichever, because I mean, we had that charrette study, and obviously that data is no longer relevant at this point at all. So
right.
We don't want to get into consultants and all that again. So
yeah,
I think just it's more my nickel at this point to put it out there to keep, residents informed on what's happening.
I think if we're taking Tri-County out of it right now, I think for the wastewater rate study that we did, I think it's still relevant, in my opinion. As far as the water goes, that's a different conversation probably for the board, I believe. But as far as wastewater, West Elgin's wastewater rate study that was completed, I believe, in my opinion anyways, that it is still relevant in 2022 and in going into 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I just want to add to Council Kimmer's comment on disclosing the information to the public on potential increases. So in terms of Rodney and West Lawrence sewage, we are trying to stay within the plan that we have completed in 2018. Actually, we are in line with that plan. That plan took into consideration grant funding. And unfortunately, the costs are increasing. For the amount of grant we have received, we're unable to refurbish Rodney plant in its entirety. However, we are, we're thinking outside the box, and we're trying to combine different grants. So Rodney sewage is fully refurbished in 2 years. As far as financial plan, we're due to renew our financial plan in 2023. And at that time, we'll be paying attention to future spending and rates and that kind of stuff. So it is, it's not past due, it's in our plans to do. At this point, there's no need to rush it or come up with different rates. We offer our residents, I think, some kind of stability. We're not raising, rates are going up every year, but we're not raising them extremely high. They're like within 2 to 3% for sewage, which, is in line with inflation.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think that's way below inflation.
I agree, Magda, 100% that we've done a very good job at trying to be reasonable. Even the minuscule of increase, we as councillors know everybody screams from the high gods. So it's not that. And then now if Sam is saying there's just an overall operating cost to maintain existing service that has to happen, residents, it doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying. They don't pay attention. We put it out on the newsletter. We put it in the water. We do all of that. We've experienced this for the last 4 years. So I'm very familiar with everything that we have done to try and educate the residents. And now there's just an unexpected expense that is going to further pull from reserves for us to maintain the infrastructure. And if that's going to diminish the reserves that we're trying to create so that we can maintain the same level of repairs, I just was suggesting that we keep the public informed of that, but they don't pay attention anyway, let's be honest. We all know that sitting in this chamber.
I just, I don't mean to step out of line or anything, but just a suggestion that I've seen in other municipalities because I get the notice too. I live in West Lawrence, I get the notice and I understand the rate increase. But I've seen other municipalities state how it changed the way that they've stated their increase instead of using a percentage, because I know the big increases are done. There was like there's 12 and 6 and 6, and I think now, like you said, we're down to like 3 for next year or whatever. But instead of stating it as a percentage, stated as an annual dollar amount on the average household, because then it looks like like a 6% of $100 is $6. So 6 times you get the bill. I know bills are more like $200, but so that's $12 times 6. You know, $66 annually looks better than 6%. And I've seen that be successful in other municipalities. So just a suggestion.
Every time we propose the increase to our residents, pamphlet go out with the water bill. And yes, we do have those comparisons, and there's a percentage, and there is, you know, we compare it to water increase, we compare it to cost of coffee, right?
Right. Yeah, and I think the other thing too, and I see it on social media as well, is like the people are seeing the increase on their like July bill. And they're like, oh, my bill went up $300. Well, did you fill your pool? It has nothing to do with the increase. My bill went up the same amount yours did, and mine didn't go to $300-400, right? So it's frustrating watching social media, but
stay away from it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else for Sam from anyone? You're good. Resolution, please.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the second quarter operations report for the Rodney wastewater treatment plant from Sam Smith of Aqua.
Mover and seconder, please. Tallier and Cameron, all in favor? That's carried.
Thanks,
Thank
Sam.
you, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay, next item up, our planner on board.
He is here. He's just getting on to it.
Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll jump right into it. You want to read the resolution?
I'm sure you'd like to do some present this
You want to present
severance.
this first before we do the recommends approval. All right, go ahead, Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I had 2 reports. The first one this morning is for the severance of a surplus dwelling at 24397 Argyle Line. This property has access to municipal water and is on private on-site septic. The property right now is approximately 45.5 acres. The applicant is proposing to remove the buildings and the dwelling that are on the property as surplus on a 2-acre lot. The policy compliance has been reviewed. This does qualify as a surplus dwelling, meets the policies under the provincial policy, as well as both the county and West Elgin official plans. The only thing that I would sort of note as an anomaly, and I just simply put this in there as a cautionary, was that there is a livestock operation that's located to the south of this property. However, it is located just short of a kilometer away, based on the size and that the surplus dwelling severance complies by over 300 meters and would not impact on the livestock operation at any point in the future should they choose to expand. I usually run worst case scenarios on those operations just to be on a cautious side, and there isn't any impact resulting from the surplus dwelling. Zoning will be required on the property to rezone the severed lot, as well as rezoning the remnant farm parcel to prohibit future dwellings. Unless there's questions from council, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Questions from anyone? Pretty straightforward application. Resolution, please.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives a report from Robert Brown, planner, regarding severance application file E5922, comments to Elgin County, and that West Elgin Council hereby recommends approval to the Land Division Committee of the County of Elgin for severance application E5922, subject to the lower tier municipal conditions in Appendix 2 of this report, and further that West Elgin Council directs administration to provide the report as municipal comments to the County of Elgin.
Okay, we've all heard the resolution. Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Latham and Tallier, all in favor? That is also carried. Next one up, Robert.
This particular property is located at 22576 Queens Line. This is a fairly large farm parcel. There is a large portion of the property that's located in the future residential area for Rodney. What's being proposed in this particular instance is there's a parcel of land that is right next to the existing built-up area there. You can see on the map that's up on the screen. The applicant is proposing to sever that off with the intent of potentially conveying that in the future for development. This will have to be at the time go through a number of approvals, including zoning, plan of subdivision, depending on what comes forward in terms of the development. One of the items that was noted through consultation with staff is that there is an undedicated and unconveyed road allowance that does run along the back of the existing lots. And making sure that that's safeguarded in the future. That will have to be considered as part of the development going forward. There are approximately 6 lots right now that are reliant on that potential future road allowance and will need to be incorporated and serviced as a result of any new development on that property. There's no zoning on either the farm or this parcel at this time. As I mentioned, it's future residential and will remain future residential until such time as the property develops. There's no compliance issues with any of the policies at the provincial level or the county. This is a part of the tier 1 settlement area, and then the balance of the property remains in the agricultural area. The severance is fully within a settlement area in this case. Unless there's questions from council, that is all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Certainly this is the first step in what potentially could be a long road, but certainly it's going in the right direction. So any questions from council? Seeing none, read the resolution, please.
That West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Robert Brown, planner, regarding the consent application file E6522 comments to the County of Elgin, and that West Elgin Council hereby recommends approval to the Land Division of the County of Elgin for severance application file E6522, subject to lower tier municipal conditions of Appendix 2 of this report. And further, that West Elgin Council directs administration to provide this report as municipal comments to the County of Elgin.
Over a seconder, please. By Taille, seconded by Cameron. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, thank you, Robert. I guess that's all we have with you this morning.
It is. Good day to everyone.
Okay, well, we'll see you later.
Yep. Thank you, Robert.
Okay. Jeff's up. I don't see him yet. There he is. Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good morning, Your Worship and Council. I'm good. Yourself?
Good. Wow, that was a fairly complex report on communications.
It was, and it's nice to kind of have somebody from the outside do a thorough study on it. So generally speaking, the chiefs were pleased with the study and generally pleased with the recommendations and the outcome.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate? You have anything you want to elaborate on?
Yeah, just I kind of caught I put a summary in the report for council. No immediate action is required. There will be a few, of course, maintenance related items. We did have to install some new batteries this year, which again is a maintenance item. So barring any issues that arise, the system overall is in good condition. There was some discussion about should we start replacing a few components here and there, but generally the study supported not doing that and instead putting any possible expenditures into reserves for hopefully in a 5 to 10 year time span for a kind of a full system replacement. So there is no immediate financial implications, but through budget, we will be recommending or proposing a 30,000 into reserves each year for a future expense for the replacement of the radio system. Happy to answer any other questions that council may have.
So is my understanding that the estimated cost of this upgrade is $1 million?
Correct. And in 2015, I believe it was, off the top of my head, that was approximately the cost, and you may recall as well, that was approximately the cost at the time. That was, of course, everybody knows costs are going up, and things are a little bit unpredictable that way. But as of today, that was the consultant's estimate on what the replacement would cost, and that was, I think, the 5+ year time frame.
So the contributions to this $1 million upgrade, is it split 7 ways? Is it split by usage? Is how does that all work out?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, great question. And right from the beginning of when the system was put in, as I said, back in 15 or so, it is evenly split across the county. Now, St. Thomas Fire has their own radio system, so they don't, they're not part of that, but the other 7 municipalities, everything is split both ways. So, or split 7 ways. And you'll remember, I believe back a while ago, there was a leak in the water tower in West Elgin, and there was some equipment replacement. We've had some issues at the Ford Tower site outside of St. Thomas and Central Elgin, but all those things get divided up equally across the county. So the county, not Elgin County officially, but the municipalities in the county own the equipment and the system and share the cost equally.
So budgeting a $30,000 a year reserve, if I do my math right, 1/7 of $1 million is $142,000, and if we budget $30,000 a year for 10 years, that's $300,000. So there's about $150,000 difference in how that all works. So maybe you can let us know how that all comes together.
Yeah, and I think we're planning on generally a 5-year replacement in 5 years, so we would be set up for that. But of course, we hope and we may be able to get longer than 5 years out of that system. But yeah, we'll and then obviously 30,000 is a round number, but we definitely recommend putting money into reserves to make sure we don't have that capital cost without reserves to help support that in the future.
Okay, so there's, am I safe in saying that there's more information going to be coming forward regarding this whole project?
This is just the initial.
Yeah, all right, cool. This is just an information at this point in time. Council have any questions? Angela?
So you're going to bring this package back to the new council during budget deliberations and present it to them with more accurate numbers, and we'll just receive and follow this?
That's what I would recommend. Through you to the chair, and that we're just taking that 30,000 out of the consultant's recommendation. So at budget time, yeah, we can obviously provide the new council kind of the background behind it, this report, and exactly how much we want to put in there.
So I'm willing to receive and file at this point, Mr. Chair.
That's my understanding. This is the first flush of this information coming forward. So this is, we can't spend any money anyway, so we're safe today.
Yeah, no, and just to clarify, this information or this report was just basically for information and saying when we get into budget time, this is probably what we're going to propose.
So one more question for you, Jeff. Of this system, is there any tracking of who uses the system and how much they use the system?
I could get you that answer. I don't have everything is recorded through our dispatch center in Tillsonburg, but as it is to quantify that, I don't have a solid answer for you on that. I'm not sure if anything's done. I can definitely find out. And the one thing is, as I'm sure council's aware with emergency services, is there's definitely fluctuation. So there might be a month that West Elgin's using the radio system more than the rest. The next month it might be Central Elgin. So it does vary. And usage doesn't necessarily put a strain on the system in regards to some other equipment per se. That doesn't necessarily have a much of an impact on the lifespan of it. But no, I don't believe there is, but I can double check to see if there's any tracking in that regard.
So at this point in time, this proposal hasn't gone to any, well, it's going to all councils right now for some consideration. So probably would be a good thing for me to have those discussions with the mayors at county council, just to see what their thinking is on it. It's just how we want to proceed forward with this.
Sure.
Any understanding why something like this has not been handled at the county level?
That I don't have a lot of insight. Obviously, I was involved in the Elgin County Fire Service when the system was put into place, but not in a fire chief role. So I can't speak for, like in 2015. I can't speak for how that came about. I think, speaking for myself, and I think most of the fire chiefs, we believe it does seem to be a good setup, because everything is shared. We all share the system, and all the costs and repairs are shared amongst the 7 municipalities. So in principle, I think we like how that works, but I can't speak for any direct county involvement. I'm not sure about that.
I do have a connectivity meeting with the county later this week, I believe, where we talk all things communication across the county, and so I'm going to bring this up at the next meeting to see what thoughts are on it. Quite possibly not at all, but at least it'll get put on the table.
Sure, and I assume most fire chiefs have or will be bringing this report to their councils for information, but they may not all have seen it yet too, just to be aware.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Well, it's early days.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Seeing no more questions, resolution, please.
The West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Jeff MacArthur, Fire Chief, for information purposes.
Mover and seconder, please. Moved by Richard, seconded by Angela. All in favor? That is carried. Clerk's reports. Thank you, Jeff. Oh, he's gone. No.
Oh, he's still there.
Yeah.
So we received that attached letter from the West Lawn Bowling Club. They did not apply for a grant this year. It got overlooked, and traditionally we have supported them. So I put this report forward to you guys to see if you're willing to, because I have to have a resolution before I can pay the money.
So I take it it's not $2.54.
No,
78 cents.
It's $2,524.78. I missed the number in there.
What's your pleasure, Council? I understand we have the money in our grant.
Yeah, the money is there in the grant.
Money is there, so we're okay to authorize this, Richard.
Yeah, well, we always have supported them in the past, so I think we should go along and carry that on.
So you would move?
I would move that.
Do we have a seconder for that?
Tressa's got a comment. Sorry.
Tressa?
Yeah, through the chair, I echo that. We've always supported them. I love that they have in their letter here that they had St. Mary's School out for 6 to 8. So that's great. And I know they were trying some new things in the community with some other youth bowling to reach out to other youth in the community and adults alike and seniors. So yeah, I would second that to support it.
Comment, Angela?
I support them. I'm just wondering for future, because I noticed we've bought fertilizer with them in the past and stuff. I don't know whether they can work with staff. I don't know if we buy such things in bulk, if there's any way to coordinate that to reduce costs. Just a suggestion.
Okay.
Oh, we've got a mover and seconder. Do you want me to read it, or are you good with moving forward?
I'm good. We have mover and seconder, and All in favor? That's carried.
Okay, so my next one is the electronic monitoring policy. This is required under Bill 88. It's pretty straightforward. Basically, we covered what we knew. The legal advice was not to get too detailed. So I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Okay.
I think it has to be passed before October 11th. Yeah. So
I think the operative clause was Bill 88.
Yeah.
So, looks like we don't have much choice.
No, and I know Elmer passed this last night. The exact same. This one is the first one in Ontario, the first municipality to pass it, and everybody jumped. So that's kind of where we're at. So that West Elgin Council hereby receives a report from Janet Nethercott, clerk, re-electronic monitoring policy, and that West Elgin Council adopts the electronic monitoring policy as presented, and further that West Elgin Council directs staff to circulate the policy as mandated by Bill 88.
Okay, you all heard the resolution. Mover and seconder, please. Tellier and Cameron, all in favor? That's carried. Will this benefit cybersecurity too?
No, this is to tell staff how we monitor them.
Okay, but through the monitoring, is there more awareness maybe?
Maybe, but
cybersecurity, but it will definitely help our municipal insurance.
Yeah, we didn't change anything for this policy. We just now have to lay it out in words.
Okay.
How we can track our staff.
All righty.
The next one is the report on the proposed redistribution of federal electoral districts. This is basically a standard report that's been passed around the county to support the county initiative being led by City of St. Thomas and Central Elgin, and to support Karen Vecchio's stance on the redistribution of federal electoral districts.
Okay, well, I think anybody that has studied this, this is not a good thing for our riding. Certainly when you take a look at the county administration building will not be in Elgin riding anymore the way they've lined this up. So unless anyone has any objection to it, I think that we could move on with this very quickly with a mover and seconder supporting it.
Do you want me to read the recommendation? The West Elgin Council hereby receives a report from Magda Badura, CAO Treasurer, and Janet Nethercott, Clerk, proposed redistribution of federal electoral district for information purposes, and the West Elgin Council hereby directs staff to coordinate efforts with Elgin County and the City of St. Thomas and local municipal partners to represent the interests and concerns pertaining to the proposed redistribution of federal electoral districts, and that the municipality of West Elgin make the attached petition available to our residents at the municipal office.
Okay, you all heard the resolution. Mover and seconder, please.
Oh, okay.
Guess we need some more discussion.
Through the chair, I'm actually speaking at the event. I'm not going to move it.
Yeah. Richard.
I'll go along and move that because I can't see anything.
There we have a mover now. Teresa.
Seconded.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and second that. That's fine.
Okay, mover and seconder. Now all in favor? That is carried. Library lease.
So library lease, so back in March of this year, I provided council with updates that county was proposing changes to our lease agreement. There hasn't been too many. It's just the rate per square footage has increased from $12 to $17. And for this year, we have received 11% increase in our rent revenue from the county. So that's good news. Actually, the increase is, favorable to our it's in favor, works in favor to our financials. The agreement, we're just renewing agreement as of January 1st, 2023 for another 5 years with the county. We're providing the county with updated layouts of our both buildings and renewing the terms of the existing agreement. So there's not too many changes in our new agreement.
I think the whole thing is being driven by the fact that across the county, there are many Elgin County branch libraries, and all of them seem to have a different lease agreement. And so it was felt that to harmonize them together would probably benefit the administration of them and make everybody's life a little bit easier. So any questions regarding this proposal? Okay, read the resolution, please.
The West Elgin Council hereby receives the report from Magda Badura, CAO Treasurer, Library Lease Renewal, and that West Elgin Council hereby approves the Rodney Library Lease Agreement and the West Lorne Library Lease Agreement, and further that West Elgin Council hereby approves the Mayor and CAO Treasurer to sign the lease agreements approved above.
Over and seconder, please. Moved by Cameron, seconded by Tellier. All in favor? That is carried. Moving along here, council reports from committees. Anyone have anything that they would like to report on?
Nothing.
Minutes from the West Elgin Community Center Board of Management. Any questions to that? I can't answer them because I wasn't at the meeting, but maybe Lee can. Questions there? Seeing none, the next set of minutes from this board.
We're just on to, you can move on if you want.
Okay. All right, right down to council inquiries and announcement, notice of motion. Anybody have a notice of motion? Seeing none, statements or inquiries from councilors. Angela.
So this is kind of just a, I don't know, an FYI, I guess. There's an economic development event coming up, and I was asked to present it to council, so I am doing it. It is being held by the Dutton Dunwich Economic Development Committee Small Business Community Event. It is on October the 13th from 5:30 until 7:30 p.m. at Cotrac Ford. There's an Eventbrite link. I will share it with the clerk. I just have not a chance to do it yet. The Economic Development Committee is going to be representing events in Dutton, Dunwich, and West Elgin. So it's a networking event for fellow business owners in both of our communities. And I understand that most of our business owners have been told within the community, but I wanted to make sure that council was aware of the event so that if we're out and about and you happen to be run into a small business owner and make sure you bring it up to them so that everybody knows about it. So I do, obviously, as a business owner, plan to attend to find out a little more about what's going on with economic development in our community.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I am planning on attending, so probably will maybe see some more council members there. Any other statements by councilors? Any matters of urgency?
Yep, through the chair. Just had a, I know last council meeting we spoke about the no parking in front of the LCBO in Rodney on Fernville Road. And I had a conversation with the engineering department at the County of Elgin. So they require, or they will require a written request from West Elgin Council to move forward with that. We've looked at that and it's something that can be done, but it requires the Elgin County parking bylaw to be amended to include that area. So if council so chooses, we will draft a letter and send to county engineering to request that and get that process started, and that will go to county council for their approval.
I think it's a reasonable request, certainly from property owners. Anybody have any issues with installing some parking, no parking signs out front. I mean, they'll be there for everybody to ignore, but that's another battle we'll have to fight. So, Richard,
I have no objection against that at all. In fact, when you come in into town and there's people maybe with a boat parked outside, and when people are trying to cut across from Queen Street, it's pretty dangerous. So something's going to happen eventually. So we should try to nip it in the bud. At least do our part anyway.
Do you need a resolution from us to prepare a letter or staff direction?
Staff direction is fine.
Okay. Everybody in favor of that? Okay. Okay, I'm going to go to the next page here. Oh dear, this is a sad one. Next up, we have the retirement of. Okay, retirement of bylaw enforcement officer Bill Telford. It doesn't say what number of retirement this is, Bill.
His wife informs us it's number 4.
Number 4.
Well, it could be number 4. It could be more. I don't know. It may not.
You've lost count.
Yeah, it just goes on and on. I know Mr. Reese is asking me that as well. But
can you back the camera out so we can see him? Oh, sorry. Thank you.
There you go. So anyways, regardless, good morning, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council, and Ms. Badura, Ms. Nethercott. And as you are aware, this is my last appearance before this council, as I retired from the position of bylaw officer. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank each and one of you, every one of you, for your support and encouragement over the past 3 years and 10 months. The position certainly expanded beyond what was initially explained to me. I thought I was coming to a position where I was only needed for a few hours a week, and as was told by the previous CAO, and also to drive with my blinders on, to only address complaints that were written and signed. Well, being new to the world of municipal property standards and bylaws and other unfamiliar laws, I found I was naive in those matters, regardless of my past history of criminal and provincial law enforcement, and even the many years of defending people charged with mostly provincial offenses. And by the way, including property standards offenses under the municipality of Parry Sound. But regardless of that, I was advised by the CAO at that time, the idea was to gain compliance without the necessity of the cost of court actions. And being well aware of those costs, I certainly understood the desires. Now, over the past 4 years, I've done my best to refrain from issuing provincial offenses notices or applying summonses under Part 3, which is the more serious side of it, of the Provincial Offences Act, knowing well the cost to the municipality. And for the most part, I believe I was successful. However, there are property owners, regardless of how many chances to help you offer, that will not comply with the standards. The only way to deal with these individuals is to place them before the courts in St. Thomas and let the prosecutor and defense hammer out the issues before a justice. A court order will soon get the attention of those few who challenge the municipality, and the bylaws of the building code and the municipality are there for good reason. And they are meant to maintain a quality of life and safety for the residents. And if they're disregarded by some, then it's the majority that suffers. So the whole point of that is it goes back to that support that I'm thanking you for over the past 3 years and change, because this is the bylaw enforcement is a very serious issue within all municipalities. Now, I want to thank Ms. Nethercott for her assistance in guiding me through the initial phases of understanding the Municipal Act and the workings of the mayor and council and how it all comes together. And I'm sure she was as frustrated as I in the beginning, trying to bring some order to what appeared to me to be chaos in the bylaw department back at that time. And Ms. Badura for her confidence in my decisions and allowing me to be part of your internal team. Thank you very much. Also, the support of Mr. Gosnell and his staff, his outside staff, for all their support. Every time I requested something, Lee was there to help me out as best he could and with his staff, and everybody stood up. Our fire chief, Jeff MacArthur, He was a great person to work with. We solved a lot of issues, I believed, working together, and certainly a person of a great resource. Vicki Kyle, who's subsequently retired prior to me, as well, working with her with regard to her knowledge of the bylaws regarding animals, and subsequently putting a new bylaw together with regard to dogs, etc. Vicki was, you know, we still call Vicki, and I have given my new partner here in the future her number for a purpose of resource. So Vicki Kyle was unbelievable. And of course, our chief building official, Jackie Morgan Bunin, for all her assistance with regard to the Building Code Act that I had to get up to order with. There's many other people too, and of course, I just thank them all for all their assistance. And as well, you know, it's interesting because we were moving forward finding solutions and compliance in some very difficult properties, and then of course we know what happened. COVID-19 struck, and restrictions were put upon us during the past 2 years, which really slowed down our whole assembly line of trying to get things under order here. More care was needed in how we proceeded with negligent property owners, taking into consideration the peremptory provincial emergency powers. And for the last year, we have attempted to once again close that gap and get up to speed in finding solutions to complaints about everything municipal. However, my time has come to hang up my spurs and retire, and let others much younger take on this difficult task of bylaw enforcement. And that, members of council, leads me to introduce the company and the officer that is being contracted to the municipality to deliver the services of bylaw enforcement. Tenant Security, this company has been contracted to supply the services required to manage the bylaw enforcement for the municipality of West Elgin. And Tenant Security, luckily for us, has assigned James Watson, this gentleman here sitting on my left, to be the officer that will take on that responsibility. Now, as you can see, perhaps Jim, if you stand up, please. Thank you, Jim. He's supplied a uniform and other equipment, and to be able to be recognized as a bylaw officer. And I'm sure you will note that Jim has a very commanding appearance. He's well over 6 foot, close to 6'4", and it's just a very imposing figure. And sometimes you need that. Thanks, Jim. He has also been issued with a Ford Explorer that's painted and signed, indicating it is a vehicle being used for security purposes and is quite imposing. I have been on patrol with Jim over the last couple of weeks, filling him in on some of my clients and their properties, as well as other problem areas that he will be dealing with. And I found Jim to be a very self-confident individual with a lot of common sense, his knowledge, and he's very eager to get on with this job. Now, I would like to give you a bit of the resume that Mr. Watson brings with him. It is very impressive. Jim is a resident farmer in Denfield, having both cash crops and beef raising. And because of our mostly agricultural municipality, I believe this will be a bonus when dealing with other farmers. Now, he's been with Tenant Security since February of 2021. Now, I asked Jim to supply me with his resume and to better let you know who he is. And I wish to read you some excerpts from that resume. He's truly an amazing individual. After leaving high school, etc., and spending a lot of time on his farm, of course, he's attended, going back, Fanshawe College Development Social Service in London as a developmental service worker with a diploma. And again in Fanshawe College, going back to 2018, Development Service Worker Certificate. That was previous to the diploma, which came after that. He attended Brock University in St. Catharines with Brain Basics and acquired brain injury certificate he comes away with, which is pretty impressive. Again, Fanshawe College Law and Security Diploma Program that goes back to 2002. Additional certifications, he has Burgess and Associates, a bylaw enforcement officer core competency course, and that's a continuing process as well. You never really learn everything. That's it. Throughout my life, it's always been, I have always found that you got to continue to take these courses to keep up. He has universal training solutions, conflict management, tactical communications, officer safety, defensive tactics, legal authorities, first aid, CPR, vulnerable person screening, professional development training, behavioral management, nonviolent crisis prevention, suicide prevention and intervention, regional support associates, correctional services, youth justice in Ontario. He has his own company, actually. He has Jim Watson Rehab Services. And I was speaking to him this morning about that. And that has to do with community rehabilitation therapy services to youth and adults with acquired brain injury. I mean, reading, this is just a partial of what I'm reading here for you with regard to Jim, his qualifications, what he comes to us with. I believe that this municipality has been so lucky to obtain resources of tenant security and Mr. Watson to assist us and do the job that I have been doing in the past. And I'm sure Jim is going to do a far better job and take up the necessary resources than I have been able to do. I would like to say that he's probably going to have to go into the courts a little bit more often, issue Part 3s to get compliance. It's just the way it's going to be in the new world. So basically, that's it for me. Retiring, I've enjoyed my 3 years, 10 months service with this municipality. It's certainly been a bonus for me to learn the Municipal Act, to meet you all, to meet all the people in this municipality, both for the good and the bad. I always said half the people in this municipality love me and the other part hate me, but regardless, it's been a very good time. If you have any questions or anything I can assist you with, please feel free to ask me, or anytime call me as well as a resource. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to open up the floor to council if you want to say a few words to Bill. Go ahead, Angela.
So, Bill, thank you very much. As the councillor that probably had a large number of calls to you on many occasions, and you were always a great resource about teaching me about the provincial offenses and the best way to handle them. So thank you for always educating me and the best way to deal with people that were upset for various number of reasons. And I very much enjoyed also being on the Police Services Committee with you. So I wish you the best in retirement, and I hope that you take this time to enjoy it. And I look forward to seeing you at the car shows and not perhaps in your 5th retirement career. So take this time. And I look forward to getting to know in my short term before I complete my term of council, the other bylaw officer. But on the other side of it, I hope I don't get to know you too well before I complete my term as a council officer as well. So, but hopefully I'll see you not on this screen, but for now I need to be here at home, not in the public. So enjoy retirement, Bill.
Thank you, Angela.
Russell.
Good morning, through the chair. Well, bylaw Jim doesn't ring as well as bylaw Bill, but we'll try it out. Just wanted to say thank you for everything you've done for us. Great resource. Coming to you is always easy with a question. Talking it out with us when we had something that we needed to help our residents with. Very easy, and then go back with them with the exact answers that we needed, even when we just need to check that the answers that we had were correct and in the right direction. So enjoy your time with your lovely wife, Helen, and maybe you'll get to travel and do some of those wonderful things that you so deserve. So thanks so much for all your resources and everything. And James, Jim, not sure which you prefer, but yep, I've already had some people contact me, said, there's a young fella uptown. Is that our new bylaw officer? It's a small town. You'll understand. I'm sure you come from a small town. And yeah, so you'll understand. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yes, Bill. I met you a few years ago, really, didn't I? I think when you maybe moved reasonably fresh into this area and you went and joined our community policing. And that's when I first met you. And I think I'm correct in saying we've been reasonably good friends ever since. And I just want to thank you for what you've done. It certainly changed the look of West Elgin, I will say that. And, you know, when you were on something, I see things really happening. So I just want to thank you, and I hope you have a good retirement, which I know you're going to do, because you're going to make an effort into that one. So all the best to you.
Thank you, Richard.
Well, first off, welcome, Jim. Awesome. You got big shoes to fill, but you got big shoes. So it should work out all right. So we'll certainly look forward to working with you over the next little while, and our next number of years or whole career, however it works out. And to Bill, you know, Bill, I've been around here a couple of days, and I've watched bylaw in West Elgin from non-existent to maybe to the chaos that you had. And so certainly I sit back as mayor, and you know, the more I got to know you, Bill, I just could not believe that we had someone that was knowledgeable, professional to the nth degree, considerate of other people, even people that you were working with. And you know, I asked myself many times, how were we so fortunate to get someone like that? And how did you accumulate all that knowledge over the years and be able to put it out to the people that you had to deal with? And then I met Helen. And it reinforced in my mind after meeting Helen that behind every good man is a great woman. And certainly from my perspective, I wish you all the best in what I would probably say is not, is just the next chapter in your lives. And you know, you have a wonderful person to share that life with. I think you're very wise in taking the opportunity to do that. And I know that you won't be a stranger, and I know that you will be there if any of us have any questions or anything. And it works the same way. Don't be a stranger to us, because we, from the bottom of our hearts here, and certainly speaking on behalf of the municipality and all the people in it, we truly appreciated the work that you did on our behalf. So to your future, it's very bright, and keep us in mind the next time you retire. We'd like to have an invitation to it. So,
very kind words, Mr. Mayor, and I certainly appreciate your comments. And you're absolutely correct with regard to Helen. She is a woman extraordinaire, and she does push me a lot.
Yeah, I know that. I figured out a long time ago if I really wanted something from you. I didn't ask you, I just asked Helen. Okay, Madam Clerk, what do you want to do next?
Well, so we can go enjoy the lovely lunch that we have for Bill. We should get moving on to our bylaws and finish the meeting.
All right, let's get her done.
So, but it's bylaw 2022-58, a bylaw to appoint a new CEMC. Just so everyone knows, the CEMC from the county has moved on to the OFMEM. And so now we have to replace him. So this is just the bylaw for that. So it's bylaw 2022-58, being a bylaw to appoint a community emergency management coordinator for the corporation of the municipality of West Elgin. Be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover and seconder, please. Angela and Richard. All in favor? Carried.
So bylaw 2022-59, being a bylaw to provide for the Mackenzie Drain South Branch and the St. Thomas More Branch in the municipality of West Elgin, be read a first and second time and be provisionally adopted.
Mover and seconder. Tellier and Leatham, all in favor? That is carried.
So that bylaw 2022-60, a bylaw to adopt the electronic monitoring policy. That bylaw 2022-60 being a bylaw to adopt the policy HR 4.9 electronic monitoring policy, be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Over and seconder, please. Cameron and Latham. All in favor? That is carried.
Bylaw 2022-61, the library lease agreements with the Elgin County. That bylaw 2022-61 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of lease agreements between the Corporation of the County of Elgin and the Corporation of the Municipality of West Elgin be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover and seconder. Cameron and Tellier, all in favor? Carried.
So we're at the confirming bylaw, sir. So bylaw 2022-62 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council held on September 22nd, 2022 be read for a first, second, and third and final time.
Mover and seconder. Latham and Cameron, all in favor? Carried.
So we're at adjournment. That Council of the Municipality of West Elgin hereby adjourn at 11:15 a.m. to meet again at 9:30 a.m. on October 6, 2022, or at the call of the chair.
Mover and seconder. Latham and Tellier, all in favor? Carried.